I'm going to butcher this, but David Platt's famous quote about when you look into the eyes of an orphan, a child in need, you are never the same. Everything changes. And that's how it was for us.
We're Graham and Heather Dyer, and we have a 15-year-old daughter, Oksana, that we adopted from Ukraine in 2020.
We got married and kind of worked our 20s and into our mid-30s away, and really just looked up and said, oh, we want to have a family. So what does the Lord want for us? I remember one night just praying to the Lord. And a couple days later, my mom called and said, hey, I know you and Graham have been thinking about adoption. You should talk to my friend who recently adopted some children from Ukraine. So that started our journey into stepping out first and participating in an orphan hosting program with a child from Ukraine. It's respite care, really, for children in need in the summer, giving them a safe place to be. We were paired with now our daughter, Oksana, in the summer of 2016.
Oksana's from a small town that's about 100 miles from the Russian border. The war had not started, but it was a tense time. Despite, in this country where she didn't speak a lick of the language, and despite all that, could not have been more brave. Hi, I am Oksana, and I like ice cream, I believe, was the opening line there. So we built from I like ice cream. So we did our first summer together with her, which was quite an experience. At the end of it, she's going back on a plane, and which was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever done in my entire life, is put the poor kid back in an airplane and send her back to, an orphanage in Ukraine. Heather looked at me and said, so, do you want to adopt kids? Do you want to have kids? Like, what's the deal? And I said, I don't know if the Lord's called me to have 9 kids, but I know He's called me to have that kid, and that was enough.
There were increased troops and tanks all around the border. We knew it was escalating. And Oksana had already lived through the 2014 invasion and had already experienced so much trauma from that.
So we had tickets to fly to Kyiv on March 17th. Obviously March 13th of 2020, the pandemic was declared, and that all, went up in the air. So at that point, we had no idea, when, if we would get over there.
So once we finally got there, it was very much a not without my daughter moment. Like, we are staying until this is completed.
We were worried that if we left, we'd never get back. So we just lived in Ukraine for 3 months. It was really neat because we got to really deeply experience where Oksana's from and what life is like there.
We would ask friends who had adopted from Ukraine or other countries, like, when do you feel comfortable or confident that it's happening? And they were correct to say, not until those wheels up are on that plane and you're headed home do you know it's really happened. Because anything's possible. We adopted Oksana 4 months before she became a teenager. It's a season that's very challenging for any child, adopted or not.
You are partnering with them as much as you are parenting them.
One of the things that TBRI taught us, make sure you're being their coach, not their warden. And so we explain everything to her on why she responds a certain way, why we're requesting certain things. And so for her, for a teen, that's been helping her learn who she is, has been really huge in helping her heal.
TBRI certainly has things to do, ways to approach a situation. It has tactical, practical things, but I think it can't be approached as a life hack, right? If I do these things, then my kid will, be fixed. Rather, I think, like Heather mentioned, I think the biggest thing I've taken away from it is being able to say, this isn't just me trying to be patient. This is understanding deeply that she has suffered as real an injury as someone who has a physical injury because of the trauma she's been through. And that has been, I think, transformative in the way that we relate to her.
Abuse tells a child, I don't like you. And neglect tells a child, you don't exist. I don't care about you. And that is actually a worse form of trauma.
There are things that are important to these kids that may not resonate or be immediately obvious for those of us who grew up in like a stable family situation. She's playing 7th grade volleyball. It meant so much to Oksana that I made every game. She would look into the stands and like, there's someone there, because there's never been anyone there for her before. So for her to be able to look in the stands and see, yep, Dad's there. I can't oversell how much just the act of presence, just being there, a ministry of presence, really means to these kids. What I go out of my way to make sure that she knows is that everything I do, which might not be perfect, is motivated by love for her and wanting to see her succeed and wanting to see her have healthy relationships and know the Lord. By being sort of open and honest about like, hey, you know what, maybe I didn't do that great, but here's what I was trying to do, kiddo. She's learned to have a little empathy for dear old Dad too. And I think that has gone a long way towards building trust and care in our relationship.
Helping Oksana understand, you are so precious to us, you matter, showing up for her. It's putting those pennies in the bank and making up for all the deficits